See, it'll have, look at this big one here, okay? It's got one-day food show plate, it's got the Philippine plate, it's got a Pacific plate. There are several contained in that big white area there. So the boundary then that surrounds it, the outside edge, is that blue line that runs around it. So those are the boundaries, but the plates are actually in white, okay? So it wants to know your question, which of these countries or areas is most likely to experience an earthquake? Look at Canada up here at the top. Now if it's in yellow, these are where no earthquake conditions exist. So in Canada, it's all yellow. So you can rule that completely out. It says the southeastern coast of the United States. Southeastern's on the east side, okay? It's over here on this side. If I'm looking at it this way, it's over on the right-hand side. So there are no earthquake conditions there. Number 3, the northeastern United States. Still on that same side, just north a little bit. No earthquake conditions. The Midwest United States, even though there is a dot about where we're located, there are not a lot there. It's just one small dot. So it wants to know which area is most likely to experience. So even though we could, it's probably not most likely. There are other places in the world that will probably suffer earthquakes before we will. Now we'll wake up in the morning, we'll have an earthquake, but anyway. And then 5, it says Mexico. Look down here where Mexico's at. All of that is purple. You see that? Every bit of it. So Mexico is most likely out of all your answers to suffer an earthquake. Now that doesn't mean, like over here where it's got the Arabian Plain over here against the edge, when you look at that, you may say, well, they'll experience earthquakes more than Mexico. That wasn't one of your choices in your answers. So be careful, even though you may see something that's different on the map, if it's not one of the answers, just focus on your answers, okay? Go ahead and flip to question number 4. Again, you're dealing with the same map. And your question says, which of the statements is supported by evidence from the map? Where are you going to get your answers?
From the map.
From the map. A lot of times, people want to come up with answers other places. Now, I've told you all, if there's information around the map, be sure and read it, like the titles, these legends down here at the bottom, be sure and look at that because that's all part of the map, okay? So it says, it wants to know which of the statements is supported by evidence from the map. So it says California is the only state in the United States that is susceptible to earthquakes. Well, if you look, all this west coast, California is included, there's earthquakes. But it said it's the only. If a question has it's the only, it's absolute, it's always, you can probably rule it out. There's hardly anything in the world that's always. So when you see those key words, there's something fishy going on, okay? So when you see that, look over here in the middle of the United States where I said where we were. There's a purple dot there. So California is not the only place that could suffer earthquakes. So toss that one. Earthquakes happen very often on the western portion of the North and South America. Well, if you go down here to North and South America, it says they happen very often. Well, down here in South America and North America, there's no evidence, there's no conditions, so there might be some, like where they're having earthquakes over here on the west coast, there might be some tremors or something off of those earthquakes, but they wouldn't be happening in the North and South America based on the map. Again, based on the map. We may wake up tomorrow and then have them, but based on your information on this map, then we don't have any evidence to support it, okay? 3, it says faults or cracks in the Earth's crust exist in earthquake zones. Again, if you look at the map, there's no evidence to support that with this map. Number 4, it says the entire Pacific coast of North and South America is subject to earthquakes. If you'll go over on that west coast, several miles in, there are conditions for earthquakes. There is a plate boundary that runs down through that portion of South America. So you've got a real strong indication that that's your answer. Go on to question 5. It says Central America is more likely to experience earthquakes than the west coast of the United States. If you look, it says Central America, which is down in here, and it's comparing it with the west coast over here. It's the same. There's not any difference in it. So that's not going to be your answer. So the strong indicator that we had for number 4 is correct. So you can mark it and move on because you've analyzed all your answers. Okay? Number 5. Again, we're still dealing with the map and the tectonic plates. With me? Number 5, it says the Andes Mountains are located along the west coast of South America, which 2 tectonic plates meet at this region. So you're looking, again, your tectonic plates, remembering they're the white section and remembering your boundaries. And it wants to know which 2 are on the west coast of South America, which is over in here, and the Andes Mountains. So you've got, it says the Andes Mountains are located on the west coast of South America, so they're going to be down in here. And it wants to know which tectonic plates meet there. So you've got this South American plate here that meets with this Nazca, I'm probably mispronouncing that, Nazca plate. So just looking at it, those 2 are the 2 that meets there. And how you can tell that is your boundary lines. They share a boundary line. This South American plate and this Nazca plate, they share a boundary line there. So that's where they meet. And again, if you'll go down through and if you'll compare each one of those other answers, you'll see that they don't meet in that area. Any questions over that? Now, the more information that's jumbled up on a map when you're taking the test, the harder it is to decipher it and delineate which answers. When you get to looking at it, you might get to looking at the boundaries and forget that you're looking for plates. So be careful and read your question really well when you're taking the test. If not, you're going to end up messing it because you have misread the question, not because you didn't know it. Okay? Number 6, again, using the same map, it says use the map. Generally, where are the most of the world's earthquake zones found? It says, 1, your answer is along the world's coastlines. Well, you've got coastlines, all kinds of places where there's not any earthquake conditions. So that's not going to be an answer. Number 2, it's got along the boundaries of the tectonic plates. If you'll notice, everywhere there's a blue line, there's a purple shading over the top of it, which shows that those earthquake conditions are favorable anywhere there's a tectonic plate. It says in South Asia. Well, if you come down to South Asia, there are conditions favorable for earthquakes here. So you might keep that one in mind and not rule it out completely. It's got in the Pacific Ocean. Well, if you look over in the Pacific Ocean, it's a tectonic plate, but there's no conditions. Well, not many. There's one stuck out there in the middle. So in the plate itself, now on the boundary there is, but not in the plate. And then in the centers of the tectonic plates, the map doesn't detail enough. The tectonic plates, you can't really see in the centers of them. I mean, they're all clear in these white areas where these plates are at. So it doesn't zoom in, it doesn't give us any indication that there's a lot of earthquake conditions in the center of those tectonic plates based on the map. So when you go back and you're looking at your 2 answers along the boundaries of the tectonic plates or in South Asia, the tectonic plates are everywhere. And so if you narrow it down, use process of elimination, get it down to a couple answers, and then it's going to be the one that's the stronger of the 2, okay, that you'll want to choose. And sometimes it'll be a guess. Sometimes you won't know, but look at it, narrow it down to a couple answers, be pretty sure of those 2 answers, and then just use the best knowledge and best guess that you have, and you'll do okay on it for the most part, okay? Now we're going to switch maps. This goes to the United States only, and it's also shaded. Now this map, look at the title of it. What's it talking about? Acid rain. Levels of acid rain. Where do I find the levels? Along the bottom. This legend where it's color-coded down here, this tells me the levels. So the deep purple is 15 to 20, the yellow is 20 to 25, the blue is 25 to 30, purple is 30 to 35, and then the gray is over 35. So those are the levels that you're looking for. So it wants to know which U.S. city is located where the highest levels of acid rain are found.